Recorded. All right, awesome. Welcome to our Wellness Wednesdays. We're super excited about today's experience that we're gonna have. Nice and succinct as always. We want to have another conversation talking about um, child, family support, family self care with you as an individual. For those who don't know, my name is Dr. Allie Griffith, Alicia, aka Dr. Allie. I am an audiologist and speech language pathologist by trade. I'm also an autism mom and the co-founder of SmartFit Fam, which is a nonprofit organization that supports families with children with autism and other special needs in navigating their wellness, whether it's with physical, whether it's with health, and or with their mental wellness. In our space, we are using this month, Autism is Awareness Month. My son is on the autism spectrum. He's 18 years old. His name is Zachary. As a result of him, we created Smart Fit Fam, and we have helped families close to 10 years now in this space. In this space, we've also had the amazing support of our Caribbean American Social Workers Association, who has been with us from inception, I love to say. From the first date, we had our first event, they were there, and they have been phenomenally supportive in our journey, understanding that not only do the children on the spectrum need support. Hi, Yvonne, nice to see you. But families need the support. And the beauty of having my mom as a social worker, and also one of the co-founders of CASWA, is she helped me to understand the importance of needing social workers in the space of family care, and why children on the spectrum need support from social workers, families need support from social workers, parents need support from social workers. And I've been blessed because my mom was one. So she was giving us all that extra support that I realized that so many didn't have. So we've been blessed with partnering with CASWA, Caribbean American Social Workers Association, like I said, from inception. So that's close to 10 years now, who have come in and has been the forefront and the pinnacle of providing additional support. So for the month of autism, we've created April is Autism Awareness Month, and Wednesdays we're going to focus on Wellness Wednesday. And we're blessed that CASWA said, "Hey, can we'd love to support your family? Can we support you by providing some additional information for your families out there?" So we're recording it. And we're going to be reposting this in our YouTube channel. I'm also going to transfer some of it to our YouTube channel so it has longevity. Even though we're here now, it's going to go past now because people can go at any time on our YouTube channel and they'll be able to have this information. So it's not just for now, but this is information that people can get later on. I am in California at my coach's house, so literally popped in just to make sure I can navigate this space. Lisa Nichols, who's going to be helping us with some other dynamic things in what we're going to be doing this year, and I'm excited for some other things that we're going to be doing with CASWA, and I'm going to talk to you guys about it as we navigate through the year and beyond. So without further ado, that was my little stalling tactic because I like to give about 5 minutes for people to come in, um, with our general intro. Shout out to all our guests today. I see a lot of Caribbean American Social Workers Association are on tonight, and please feel free. This is an open conversation and discussion. Um, we're going to try and do one at a time, or unmute your mic if needed, or just raise your hand, and I could always give you some support or lean towards your direction. So what I want to do first is I want to welcome Miss Elsa Coom. I always like to give her lots of credit. She was at the beginning with us at the beginning. She's I always say our number one cheerleader when it comes to CASWA. I just love you, and I'm so grateful for all the help and support you've done. Melissa Harden, Cheryl Ann, I see you. Thank you always for your support. Penny, and so many and so many. I don't even want to start giving names because then people are going to say me too. So yes, the whole crew, but these are the people I know have been showing up for us in so many ways. And I see some of our parents are popping in also. So thank you guys for giving me a time out today. So, conversation led. We are going to talk first about the child, and then we're going to talk about the parents, and then we're going to talk about the family as a unit, right? So, in terms of caring for the child, what are some suggestions that you guys would give to a parent that has a child that's newly diagnosed on the spectrum? How can they help? How can they help their child to navigate this space? Like, what are some things they can do in the caring aspect of the child that they may need to know to help that child with? Is there anything, any information you'd like to give, or any history of anyone that worked with, or just any information you want to give? Got people coming in. I'm a call. Am I need to call you, Melissa? I
I
think
didn't hear you.
Melissa's leading in. Any suggestions you would give for families or with children on the spectrum in terms of caring for their child on the spectrum? Any specific things that you think that can help them out there to help them in not just themselves as the parent, but the child? What's additional support that you think that you've seen or would like to share with them with how to when dealing with child who's on the spectrum or helping them to understand? Anyone has any? Vanya, I see you also.
Oh.
Go for it. I saw you.
Hi. Yes. Good night, everyone. My name is Vanya Mears. I am a new member of CASWA, and I'm very, very happy to be here. And happy to participate in such an important subject matter. Just a little bit about me, my history and my experience is with mental health, substance use, and HIV. So I usually borrow some of my experiences from that field to lend because they're all kind of connected. So to answer your question with regards to a parent with a newly diagnosed child, the first thing that comes to mind is offering support. Of course, if it is welcomed by the parent, offering support. Based on my experience with my clientele, a lot of it was feelings of isolation, not having someone to talk to open up to, not having a community with shared experiences or someone with lived experiences to have a positive influence and not knowing all of the resources that are out there. Right. We
Mhm.
live in a very computerized time, technologies everywhere. So at the drop of a hat, you can just Google something and find it in a minute. But traditionally, those were not avenues that were available for individuals. So I
Mhm.
think offering support as long as it is invited, connecting family to resources that are close by and in the neighborhood, which would probably encourage attendance, and then just probably just listening, not being an expert, right? Just
Good.
listening to what they want to talk about, their feelings, being a sounding board, and not necessarily an authority on it, but just providing a space where they can just talk about their experiences so far, their fears, and so forth.
Thank you so much for that. Anyone else want to add in on that? So we could just leave it open to child, family, or for the parents. Any other additional support that you're thinking of that you'd like to add on to that? Great, great. I love the listening part. It's that's key. And sometimes not always coming in as the expert, even though you're the expert, but trying not to speak above them, but with them, right? Helping them to understand the compassion and the connection. Like I understand, I care. And one of the things we use with that, and you may use it also, it's relating a similar story. I would go, I know a young man, I know a family, I've helped a family like this, or I have a personal experience with this. Feel free to use me as your personal experience. I don't mind, right? Of helping this family, or I know this young man who initially he wasn't speaking and now he's speaking due to some of the work. So they know that you're not just looking at them from above, but that they know that you're seeing them from something personal. Anyone else? And mom said, Melissa, if you want to introduce yourself and just share a little bit of who CASWA is. I kind of jumped straight into it. There goes mom giving me the guidelines. Just tell us who CASWA is again.
No problem. Good evening, everyone. My name is Melissa Harding, and I'm the current president of the Caribbean American Social Workers Association, Inc. It's our pleasure to collaborate with Smart Fit for Autism Awareness Month. This is a series of workshops that they're doing. So we're collaborating today. Many of the licensed social work professionals within our organization do work in various fields, such as child welfare, substance abuse, housing support, things of that nature. If I've forgotten any, please forgive me. That is not my intention. But in our work, we do interface, I believe, with many families that um, are along, have either their loved one or they are along the spectrum. And so today we want to lend our voices based on our various experiences within our disciplines. And so I think what our responses may come from based on our background and the type of work that we have done, and maybe even some of personal experiences, either seeing someone in our community or in our church and what supports and services that have been in place for them or things that we have learned from them that we can, share today to the group and those who will be viewing this at a later time. So, CASWA, you have a wealth of experience. So, want to hear your voices in the room as we collaborate today with Smart Fit. Thank you.
Thank you. And that brought up a perfect question. So I'm thinking about kids, children with special needs in the family, in the community. What are any suggestions that you guys can give to help parents to feel like they can integrate more with the community? What have you seen? I know a lot of parents who have kids on the spectrum tend to keep them indoors, keep them away, kind of keep them hidden. Sometimes they won't even take them to church. I saw recently there's a church that has a separate section now, a sensory kind of space. The children with special needs, they created that space for them. Is there anything that you guys have seen or anything you'd like to add on that can help a parent?
Hi, good evening. This is Elsa Kohn. I'm a retired, I'm a retiree. I'm a,
Hey, to
yes,
celebrate that.
thank you. And I'm a licensed social worker also, but I can recall one of the things you can help parents with, I think, is recreational programs so the children can have a chance to integrate with each other, with their peers, because they tend to be isolated, as you said. They don't want to go out and meet, some people are not readily able to accept, first of all, the diagnosis of their child, and now they have to deal with it. And so, programs where they can have some recreational activities. For example, when I met you, you had started, I don't want to pronounce it wrong, the program you had,
So smart kids.
yes, and something like that. That's important for children to be able to come together and get a chance to meet with each other and socialize. And that's another a good one of the things that you can, introduce to a family or a mother or a father, some recreational support.
Awesome. Thank you. And
You're
that's a
welcome.
great time for us to plug on April 26th. We'll be having our Family Wellness Day, which will be at Wyckoff Farmhouse Museum in Brooklyn. So that's a great recreation idea or
Yeah.
space that we have. And we usually have about 1 to 3 events. We'll have another one in June, Family Fitness Day. And then in September, we'll have Radiate. But April 26th is a perfect time to bring your child out. One of the things that we do with that, Miss Elsa, as you see when we come, is we try to create a big empty space so that
Mm-hmm.
parents aren't sitting there concerned about if their children run. It's a gated space so we can close it. And it's actually a space where parents can feel they can breathe, that no one's going to be staring at their child if someone, makes noise. Or we have all
Mm-hmm.
sorts of kids that come that day, and parents are actually have a moment where they can relax and breathe. So if you know of any families out there, please definitely let them know of that. And of course, continue to share the resources that if you hear of anything else inside. Thank you for that idea. Definitely recreation. What about
Mm-hmm.
churches or religion? Anyone want to add to that? Like, how are some ways that you can incorporate? I know I see Miss Penny peeking in. I know you. I don't know if you want to talk or anything, but I want to give you and Miss Elsa a big shout out because I know my mom brings Zachary to your church
Yeah.
on some Sundays, and I've heard some amazing things of how he's embraced and how he's welcomed. Anything that you guys want to add on that part for families with kids with special needs, and what you've seen or what you want to suggest to people out there for churches or anything else?
Well, I think Penny may be a little shy because I see she's still on mute, but I think what I, would like to add when it comes to churches, in addition to having the private viewing rooms and things of that nature. And I know some of the larger churches now, like the church I attend, they actually have ministries that are designated for youth with special needs. So they have workers that are trained. Like you said, it's an open space. So it's kind of like a sensory room where the children have an opportunity to engage with things that they're used to that might be at their school or in another setting. So that helps. So for a parent who, needs to engage in collective worship and have that time of praise and worship and their faith, they have an opportunity to do that and know that their child, is safe and cared for and nurtured and things of that nature. So I think that's good. Another thing I also think that we need to do is that we need to give a little more education to people that have either misconceptions or misideas, information about persons with autism. Because if you see someone that's wearing a pair of headphones, and you might think like, oh, well, that child is kind of old to be wearing headphones. It's disrespectful for them to be doing that in church and not really understanding that, maybe because of
Noise.
some type of noise that will be triggering to them, this is what's helping to keep them calm within that space. And so I think just educating, excuse me, the population would be very helpful in continuing to support our families that are dealing with autism and other neurodivergent diagnoses.
Love that. Love that. I see Miss Penny unmuted, but you have to add.
Um, what? Sorry.
We hear you.
What I was gonna add. Good evening, everyone. What I was gonna add. I want to know how to address parents that have kids with autistic children, but don't accept acting as things are normal and don't want to accept the diagnosis. Don't want to take their kid to get a diagnosis.
Yeah, that's hard. That's partially why we do a lot of this information out there, and why it's important for us as a community, including social workers, to be in this space, because this is the hard part for them to deal with. How do I now take this space where I see something's different with my child, but I don't want to talk about it and I don't want to bring it
Right.
to the forefront.
Mhm.
So I prefer to hide. And one of the things why I decided to show Zachary, trust me, I didn't want to show Zachary to the world. I wanted to keep him safe and I wanted to make sure people didn't laugh at him. But I remember my coaches at that time telling me, we have to use this moment to let them see that it's okay to bring our kids out. It's okay that they're going to be different. So the more that we talk about it and give more information, especially in our communities, let them see us looking like this, right? Letting them see Zachary with his headphones on and seeing the growth that he has happened. But it really requires a lot of us just having those conversations with them and letting them know it's okay to be different. The Caribbean population is another space where they ran from it more. I
Mhm.
believe that autism is being spoke about more in the communities and more on TV. There's more cartoons about it. So it's being embraced a little bit more, but it really is on us as a community to share more about it and share, how it's okay for their child to be different. But yeah, it's really hard for parents to accept it. And what ends up happening is because of late diagnosis, now you have your child falling more behind, right? So the more we can get them into early intervention, the more I got Zachary in from 18 months to 2, and I started to realize that he was definitely showing the symptoms. Get the early intervention. That's what helped him to start early. Okay. Let me see if I could mute that person who's coming in. That's a great question. Anyone else want to add to that or have any other concerns? Yes, Mom, I see you.
I was going to add the issue of disclosure because when we do disclosure as professionals, then it helps other families to understand a little better when we show more acceptance. So we take some leadership roles in that area too, because again, it's not easy to do the disclosure, but once you do that and then share information, because I do that a lot. I do disclosure about Zachary, about kids I encounter, and it helps people with developing some level and also walking the walk with them, taking them out there when there are events like I ask people to
Nice
say hi,
hearing.
and then you have to go.
Nice
I'm
hearing.
not home, guys.
But can I go on your iPad now?
Yes, Jake, sorry. I'm not
No,
home.
I'm watching the movie Zachary. Never mind. You can have it back.
But I love what mom was saying.
Sorry.
Absolutely incorporate them more in the community. One of the things we could do, and my book is always available. I have a lot of books that's available, very, very discounted. And this is not about selling my book, but I do realize the reason why I have the book is so that people can see it. And when they read the information, then they tend to identify with it. So if you do need access to me sending out a bulk set of books for you to share with parents, it's the Journey to Autism Acceptance, right? It's that beginning space when they need to see something that looks like them, that's giving them information on how to accept it. So that's a really great source. And even Zachary's coloring book, I use that with parents just to show them, look, he's a kid on the spectrum and he has a book. Like there's things that can happen with them, that if you start or you get the support, and I'm not saying every person's going to be like that, but just letting them know there's hope and sharing other information with them. Great stuff. Great stuff. Um, as we move into Autism Awareness Month, what are some things that you can suggest for moms or families out there that can help them in this process of dealing with something different with their families? Because of that, this is also Child Abuse Month, right? So this is the month you guys speak a lot about child abuse, and you'll have parents who kind of will either neglect their child or do things intentionally or unintentionally. I don't want to really step into that space, but what are some things that you can help them, that you can suggest to them that can help them from preventing themselves from feeling that they may need to be at that space? Any suggestions? And you can just unmute your mic. Thanks again for everyone that came out, and let me know how else.
I think for me, it just goes back to what I said in the opening, which is not only listening, but maybe providing peer support. What may that look like? Living or having a child living with autism could be overwhelming, and it might not be as easy to achieve everyday tasks and do everything you need to do. So I think providing that type of peer support where it's like, hey, I don't know if you need some financial assistance. I could research some areas for you and see what I can find. Hey, I don't know if you would like to connect with other moms who have children who are on the spectrum. Hey, I can do some research and see if I can find some community groups in the neighborhood to connect you to. Hey, I'm not sure what type of support you need. Do you want to tell me exactly what it is that you're looking for, the type of ways I can show up for you during this period? I think those would be some good ways to provide support, connecting to resources, listening, as I mentioned before. And then when you were asking before about spaces, it made me think about the ableist society we tend to live in, whereby we just assume that everyone is equally abled, that we all can walk, that we all can run, that we don't have challenges. And so a lot of devices are created for people with that assumption. And of course, over time and advocacy, we see we have ramps going into buildings, which would allow people who ambulate with the assistance of a wheelchair to get in. I think it is recognizing that this is something that is not going anywhere, and creating spaces that are more inviting so
Mm-hmm.
that, people would not feel out of place. So creating an environment that's more inviting, if it means that you might have to change a few things,
Mm-hmm.
so be it. This is how we evolve and adapt as society goes on. So that was just something that came to mind when you were speaking before.
Absolutely. Thank you. Great information. So once again, I think it's important for families to know that you guys exist. There is support out here for you. There's social workers in many different spaces. So Vanya, since you were on, if you could get back on, since your camera was, since your mic is hot already, and shout out and thank you very much for all the social workers, Caribbean American social workers, for attending tonight and for being a voice and just being here for us. We super appreciate you. We hope to see you on April 26th in Brooklyn. Where would they find social workers? Like I'm here saying, oh, social workers, but where can they find social workers in their community that like I don't you tell me like whether it's different areas where they can possibly find social workers. I know school is one.
Well, I mean, for New York, you can call 311.
Okay.
You can call 311 for most anything. You can call to ask about social workers in the neighborhood, and 311 could connect you to possible resources.
Yep, thank you. I'm here telling you guys, talking about you guys, but where can we find you? CASWA also has an Instagram page. Feel free to follow them on Instagram, where they share many events. And do you have guys have anything that's coming up anytime soon that we could invite them to? Melissa, Cheryl Ann, anyone want to speak about what you guys have coming up? I know you guys, somebody or a few of you may be out on the 26th. So if you have any specific questions, I understand this is a public platform. So they'll be there, or some people will be there. So if you want to just go and sit and talk with someone and have that conversation, my mom has been the air for so many. Miss Elsa's been the air. Whoever's attended, we've used you guys in so many different aspects where they could just sit and talk. Feel free to come and join us on the 26th, and that'll be another space. But where else can they find you, Cheryl Ann or Melissa or whoever want to share?
I mean, we have some internal events coming up currently, so not anything that's open to the public that I could share, but we will be in the building on the 26th, and we'll have a table at the Smart Fit Fam event. So we look forward to interacting with anyone who may need any additional resources on that day.
Yay!
I have a question though, and I
Okay.
know your time is running out, but
Mhm.
I was hoping that at least we could throw out there that we do have many families whose children are impacted with this autism in the child welfare system. And that's been something for us as we, haven't been in the system. I mean, I know not Cheryl, Cheryl, I'm coming to you, but Melissa and Elsa, we have encountered a lot of that in child welfare. And that's all.
Yeah.
Anybody got anything they want to throw out on that? Any experience or anything? They tend to be more abusive because parents, again, don't know how to manage the autism, this whatever the children present, and so they could result in being abusive from their frustration, their lack of knowledge and support that we're talking about. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it go ahead.
I want to hear from them. Thank you. Social workers in the room.
They've been
Who
sharing
speak?
great information, so go ahead, Miss Elsa.
Oh, from my experience, when I was at used to do child and family specialist at that time, yes, we've had many cases where parents were unable to understand the behaviors of the children. And as you said, they were also in denial of really accepting that
Mm-hmm.
something was wrong with their child. And so they had to be educated about it and try to encourage them to get the child, first of all, to be tested. And for us, if there it was so, to help them to get the resources possible. And that's one of the things happen a lot, because then you'll find they're actually, you call it corporal punishment, might be hitting the children, and then a report comes into ACS. And so that happens a lot. I don't know, I'm not there now, but I'm sure it has not changed.
And I think, like Vanya has said at the beginning, it's really being a safe space for people to go.
Yeah. I
People
want to
that
know
that
also, I want to know about the substance abuse and the autism. Caroline, is she available? Can you throw anything in there quickly? I know time is limited, but
And I know that I've identified some patients where I work at in my clinic that sued with substances. So some will sue with alcohol. Now that weed is legalized in some places, they sued with weed. And the difficulties of one case I had was missing many days of school because they were home either intoxicated or high from weed. So, we had to encourage the parent, you have to let them go to school, or I could find a drug treatment program, a program that, could assist, because you don't want ACS or anybody else, you know, addressing it when we could address it before it becomes, very toxic or deadly.
Thank you, Sherilyn. Mom?
That's I like to hear from the social workers in the room, and maybe you guys could wrap up and tell us something. Anybody from CASWA want to just do some wrapping up? Any things that you must tell us? Any messages or so?
Felix, I saw you just unmuted. You want to pop in? Thank you
Yes.
for helping
Good
us
evening,
wrap up.
everyone. My name is Felix Sampson. So yes, I agree with everything that Elsa said. I currently am still in the child welfare field. I work with children and families, and often I have a case currently a 5-year-old who was recently diagnosed with autism. Um, there was BV in the home. Child came into care, would not eat, would not speak, would not sleep. Um, and every time the mother was present, the child flinched. So that basically said that mom was not educated on the child's diagnosis. Mom did not. Mom was not cognizant of what to feed the child, so she gave her ramen noodles and orange soda. So if she's in the foster home, that's all she wants to eat. Um, she's crying every night. She's hitting her head against the wall. And, the foster parent is doing her best to work with mom. She's been around the world and back to have her um, evaluated. Finally, mom signed consent. The child was evaluated. She's diagnosed with autism. Now comes time, the recommendation is medication. Mom does not want to find consent to the medication. Um, so the mother's partner is a female who identifies as the father. So she's fine for the medication. The child is now on medication. He's receiving the services in school. The agency is working with the foster parent, and you can see a recognizable difference in her behavior in the home. Subsequently, when she's at the agency for visits, you can see that the child is more in tune with her environment and she's able to communicate. She's now saying words during the visits. So this just goes back to say, I'm not blaming or shaming mom. Mom is relatively young. However, as she comes through the visits, we have a parent advocate who's assigned to the family. Um, and we have parenting training classes here for children with special needs. So she's engaged in those classes. And as a result, she's gaining the tools and the skills
Very
that
good.
she needs to engage with her child. And hopefully, in the near future, can reunify with the child. But I wanted to go back to my my great nephew. He was diagnosed with autism. So for the very early part of his life, he couldn't speak. His mom used a pacifier until he was about maybe 2 or 3. And there were signs that something was not right. So we tried to encourage her to get him evaluated. And that's not something that she wanted to hear because, of course, no parent wants to think or know that something's wrong with their child. So finally, he was evaluated and diagnosed with autism. And, believe me, he's a very intelligent young man. He's very ordered. Everything for him must be done in order. What he eats on a day-to-day basis must be the same. Occasionally, he does try different foods, but he maintains the order. But when I tell you he's smart, he can navigate any electronic device given to him. He's able to communicate with his grandfather. He's in Florida. He communicates with his grandfather. He's very, very smart. So, my niece getting to the point to accept that there was a challenge and knowing that she had to seek get the help for him was such a big step for her. And I know a lot of parents do not want their children to be labeled, but I want to encourage it's not a label, it's just learning how to be able to effectively manage your child on a day-to-day basis. So that's about that.
And what a perfect way to wrap up. Thank you so much. Learning how to manage your child on a day-to-day basis. Thank you, Ulix, for sharing that information, sharing from her expertise from work, experience at work, and her own personal information. And I just want to thank you all again. Adding on to that, I've noticed a huge change in Zachary once we started medication. That's a whole different topic we can talk about with parents and not wanting to do the medication versus medication. And I'm not going to tell anybody how to do anything with their child, but I can tell you, someone told me if he can't sit, he can't learn. So if you're able to find something to help him to focus a little bit more, at least you're giving him the ability to learn. And that's what got me into actually saying yes to medication. And it makes night and day difference with Zachary when we need him to use it, and he doesn't always have to use it. Thanks
I
again,
just,
Caswa.
I just briefly want to add something. Um, of course, we focus all the time, a lot on the children, but the parent themselves, they need respite
Yes.
themselves where they have a moment where they can breathe, where they can have some self-care. And that's where community plays a big role. It not only just educating people that's everybody that comes in contact with children who are autistic, but the general family in the different cultures that really don't understand what is happening. You take your child out and, people begin to stare, and even family members, the whispers, and how to educate them and provide in a community where someone, a parent can do some self-care and have a moment to breathe. That is so important because the level of frustration that we do see is because there are no community support when they go inside and close those doors. And I am tired. I am all day, all night trying to do this by myself. And so that's where a lot of attention needs to be focused on and targeted and see how we can best be of support and show up for those parents.
I see Caswa wakes up in the end. You guys are hot and on fire. Great information. Absolutely amazing source of information. Once again, on the 26th, if you need additional support, we can follow up. We can add some additional information, individual information at that time, more privatized, more individualized. They'll be there. They'll have a table and you can ask more questions. Thank you again for saying yes. Thank you for your involvement. Thank you for the help that you've given our families on behalf of families, and I can only speak as a mom. Thank you for the work that you do. It doesn't go by. Like we we notice it, and I know sometimes we may be hard headed, right? And it requires a level of patience that we act like we don't want to hear it. But you guys keep advocating for us and keep standing up for us and keep being there for us, even though sometimes we may not be receptive to it. Thank you for all the work that you do, and we'll see you guys on the 26th. Have a good night, everyone.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Hi, CASWA. We have our general meeting, so you can use the other link that Cheryl provided and rejoin. Thank you. Thank you again, Dr. Ali.
Thank you, Melissa. Appreciate you guys so much.